Mother's Day has a way of sneaking up on you. But when it does, 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to send mom something beautiful, thoughtful, and worthy of everything she does. Right now, with double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a bigger gesture with fresh, beautiful flowers arranged to make Mother's Day feel as special as she is. Make Mother's Day feel bigger with double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Spotify.
This is Bridges Burned with Megan and Amy.
We already paid the price for telling the truth, so now nothing is off limits.
The bridges are behind us, and we're on the other side of the fire. Today, we're joined by the founder of Gold Comedy, a powerhouse platform helping women and non-binary creators build real careers in comedy. From classes to industry connections, she's creating space and opportunity where it hasn't always existed. She's a comedian, a producer, and advocate using humor to drive change. This is Lynn Harris.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for such a nice intro.
You're amazing. So let's talk a little bit. What gap did you see that made you create Gold Comedy?
Not enough women in comedy. That's it. And, not enough women, not enough of what I call others. And of course, things have changed a ton since I did stand up in the 90s, and I've been around comedy forever and ever since. Things are, since we're all grown adults here, we are able to hold 2 conflicting truths at once. And one is that things are tons better, night and day better than they used to be. And the other is that everything is terrible. And I'm certainly not the only one here, but I believe that comedy needs to be more diverse, in particular to include, not just include women, but put women in positions of power, because women are people, because comedy is a job, and also because comedy is a cultural force. So it matters who makes it.
It's funny because, I can't imagine doing stand-up in the 90s because there was such a narrative that women aren't funny, or there's a woman, you have to add a woman to the lineup, but it's not going to be good, and you look at where women are today. I'm watching Kevin Hart's Funny AF show, and I think 2 of the strongest comedians on there are the women, and it just makes me so happy.
I mean, the whole women aren't funny thing is so boring. And I mean, I don't mean that you're raising a boring conversation. I just mean that, it's just, the only, possible response to that is just there's nothing to, it's just, there's nothing to engage with on that. No, thank you. But the problem is it has real implications. It has economic implications. It has employment implications. It normalizes the idea that men are comedians and women are extra, or, doing a hobby. It normalizes the idea that, just the word, just the fact that we still have the word comedian, which is the worst word, and really has no point. And the fact, and you said, Amy, that, I wish more people were saying, oh yeah, we got to have a woman or women in the lineup. That's still, it's bonkers, but it's still not that unusual for a lineup to have one woman or, one person of color, if you're being really diverse. And that's just bonkers. And it's not good for anyone. It's certainly not good for the show, and not good for the audience because it's boring. And it's not good for the, I'm guessing, straight cis white dudes who are most of the lineup, because, comedy is hard for everyone. It's hard for them too. And when the rest of the lineup looks like you, that makes it harder for you too. It's harder for you to distinguish yourself. When people leave, they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I like that one guy. What did he? Which guy? And then your friend's gonna be like, "Wait, which one?" And Jake, Mark, and so it's not helping them either.
No, not at all. I actually remember I was dating a guy one time, and he said, "Megan, you're really funny. I don't usually think girls are funny, but you're really funny." And I was like, who says stuff like that? But that is right. I obviously stopped dating him soon after that.
I noticed you said that in the past tense. Yeah.
That is a narrative, and it's kind of crazy. And I still can't believe people actually think like that. What got you into comedy, and did you kind of face comments and stuff like that?
I got into comedy just because I loved it. I don't have a great story. I don't have like a triumph over adversity. I don't have like I do have one funny story about a ski trip in high school that has to do with why I think it matters that women do comedy. But I just liked it. That's it. Like I really just liked it. It was when I was growing up, the TV was on, Carol Burnett, I Love Lucy, all the great sitcoms of that time, The Jeffersons, Good Times, and Laugh-In, Miss Piggy. They were all the women on those shows were awesome, and I didn't think of them as, to go back to our earlier thing, I didn't think of them as women comics. And I mean, in my world, maybe I don't really know what other people were saying, but in my world, nobody was calling them women comics. Did anyone ever call Carol Burnett a female No, it's Carol Burnett, And I'm not saying things were better then. I'm sure they were working twice as hard and getting paid half as much and all that's, all sorts of stuff. But no one ever told me that they were different from anyone else. And not that I thought I could therefore be Carol Burnett or Ruth Buzzy or whoever it was, but easily. But I was just like, fun, me want do that. Like it was just, there was nothing deep about it. There was nothing deep. And what was the second part of the question?
Did you receive any sort of comments like I did?
Oh, constantly. I mean, all the time, all the damn time. I still do, even people who will say like, oh, so I understand you're a comedian. I'm sorry, comedian. I'm like, geez, Louise, I just, this is someone else's, I wish I remembered who put it this way, but, it's like, you don't say, so you're a doctor? I'm sorry, doctress,
Yeah, who says?
Oh, so you're a lawyer? I'm sorry, lawyerette. Like, I mean, I just, I know that we've had gendered terms for other things like, steward and steward, like whatever, a waiter, waitress, but like, even those seem old and kind of pointless. So I never, thank God, I never had, one of the, horrible experiences that I'm sure you've heard about that women have in comedy partly because of the kind of decentralized workplace, so to speak, that it is. That doesn't help. So there's a lot of, very bad, violent, assaulty kind of things that happen, as they do everywhere else, which has direct economic implications because then a woman may decide, or at least if there's something overtly toxic in a given club, space, writer's room, whatever, the woman will be like, I can't work there. And not that she should be able to work in a toxic environment, but not being able to work in a given environment has major employment and economic implications, right? So bad. But so I never had anything horrific happen, partly because I wasn't very ambitious. Like I just really love comedy. So my goal with doing comedy was, I worked hard, but I wasn't ambitious, if that makes sense. My goal with doing stand-up was to do stand-up. But even in that context, it was relentless. It was relentless. Just the, death by 1,000 sexist paper cuts of, there was one particularly bad one of these, but it was not abnormal, where the host of the night, and I will say it was Jeff Ross, who was like super famous, but I decided then that he was bad at his job, and I may not be wrong still, that he, and because he was not an amateur at this time, even though it was years ago, he was hosting, but again, this story is not about Jeff Ross. Just to be clear, this story could have been anybody, right? I was the only woman on the lineup, normal. I noticed that he didn't come up to me. A normal MC will come up to you before the show and just be like, hey, what do you want me to say about you? And you'll just be like, I work clubs and colleges, and I have a solo show next month, something. And I noticed he didn't come up to me, and I'm like, oh, bruh. So I went up to him, I'm Lynn, I work at Oxygen, whatever. And so it's time it's my turn. And he's like, oh, yeah, our next person, this girl is, damn it, forget her name. I think she works at Lifetime. Anyway, here she is.
What?
And okay, you're bad at your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can be like wounded by the sexism, which the only reason that would happen is sexism. But what it means is you're bad at your job.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only job you have is to make the audience hyped for you. That's the only job. So, and if you forget, like that happens, if you forget my name, okay, I can live with that. Then you say, hang on, like you make it funny, you make it part of the show. You hang on, you run off stage, whisper, like you make it funny. Okay, now I'm doing my job. Like you can fix this, bro. So anyway, that one stuck with me, but it was like the number of times we heard like, oh no, we don't have a spot for you tonight because we already have a woman on the lineup. Or
My God.
Which is overtly discrimination. I mean, hello. But then also, and the problem with that is not just the obvious, but the problem is if you're the only woman on the lineup, then every dude on the lineup has, 8 minutes to prove that he's funny. And the one woman has 8 minutes to prove that women are funny.
Yeah.
And that's what actually doesn't help with this whole women aren't funny thing, because if she's like not your, like no one is everyone's style of humor. No one.
Right.
And if she happens to like not be your jam, then women aren't funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing was I happened to talk about like dating because I was like, I don't know, my young 30s and single, whatever it was, or late 20s, I was single, whatever. And I was very self-conscious about that because I felt like everyone assumes that women are always going to talk about dating, which, by the way, guess what men always talk about? So
yeah,
yeah. So I was self-conscious, but I sort of took the advice that I know to be true, which is write what you think is funny, write what you care about. Like who cares how what they think? And so I did it. But like no dude is going to be like, but men always talk about this, or people always think that men talk about this, so I better edit what I say, or like it's just you don't walk into perceptions like that and think about tailoring your act because of it. You just don't. So it was, to answer your question, Megan, it was a combo of like direct sexism and just a different set of demands, expectations, and tastes, or not tastes, opinions about women doing comedy.
I mean, we are from media. We worked in radio, so same but different, where for women, if you work with a man, you are the co-host and you are paid less. But I found for me, because I am vulgarly funny, I would get in trouble for jokes that I would make that the man, it would be like, no, you should let him make those jokes. Like I was told those things all the time. Or like we had a boss, he's like, you're really funny for a girl. Like you really go for it, But that kind of like slid off the back. But it was when they started getting in trouble. Like, why are you making these kind of jokes? And this is like 3 years ago. So it's still funny that that's happening.
I hear that. If I had a nickel for every time someone said to me, listen, I'm all for women in comedy, but I just don't like it when they're vulgar and I feel like they're kind of ruining it for the other women. What do you think about that? My answer is, that's okay. You don't have to like it. Go find the other bazillion women comics doing jokes that you like. There's no... they're not women. The problem is that women are still representing women. And I'm saying this in air quotes. And, that's but I would like women, but they're so vulgar when they do. That's like whatever percentage, and you don't have to like it. I don't really care if you don't like it. It doesn't really matter it doesn't matter what I think about it at all. It doesn't matter if it's my jam or my vibe, and it doesn't matter if it's yours. Then you're just not going to watch the 100,000 other specials on Netflix. You're not going to flip through them until you find a person that you like. That's bananas. So, yeah, the whole vulgar thing. Please keep going for it, Amy. Do whatever you want.
Well, now we have a podcast, so I can say and do whatever without a man looking down on me and being like,
yeah, there's no men at all helping us on our podcast.
No,
helping you because even with the science and the
believe it or not, we're doing it all on our own. I know it's crazy to think that, but yeah.
That's so great. I love that for you. It must be so hard.
Yeah.
All these buttons. What are all these buttons and wires?
Don't ask me. I'm just a girl.
Yeah.
Thinking gives you wrinkles. Love that from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Right.
What do you think makes it really hard for women and non-binary creators to kind of break into the industry? So even now.
Everything. But also, I actually do think it's easier to break in than before. And that's a very broad statement to which there are many exceptions, of course. But I think there are more on-ramps and it's more democratized. Does that mean it's easy? No. Does that mean it's easier? A little, because of, technology. You can create a brand or supplement your brand using social. You don't have to necessarily live in New York, Chicago, LA. You don't necessarily even have to. I mean, we've been talking about stand-up this whole time, but you can create a whole persona and presence for yourself without bothering with dumb dude bro open mics, So, and there are, by the way, tons of better open mics these days. So don't give up entirely on open mics. But so again, it's not magic. It still takes 10 years to be an overnight success. But there are just more democratized on-ramps there's just more opportunities. And combine that with people are these days making more of an explicit effort. So, for example, Samantha Bee was either she pioneered this or she was the biggest one to pioneer this. When she was staffing up her show, she had, they read the submissions without reading their names. So they had no clue or they couldn't even take a guess at what people's gender was or really anything else about them. And they staffed the best writers. Whereas it used to be the most important thing was that your dad worked on the Harvard Lampoon. And so there are both, just because of women, non-binary creators, all the others benefit from having arguably equal access to social media and other widely available places to build your brand, and also because of explicit programs and efforts, it is easier. It's still not easy. And then, when you break in, unless you are finding your way through, again, people and programs that emphasize and prioritize diversity and inclusion, you still come up against. I still see lineups that are all women. I still see, it's not uncommon to find women comics on Instagram naming and shaming a particular club, a particular manager of a club, a particular pattern of crappy behavior that looks like what I saw in the 90s. You still have to, the trenches are still the trenches.
Let me ask you this, because we found in media, right, we're very close-knit, but a lot of us are pitted against each other because there is only so many jobs and so many opportunities. I always love Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, how they're together and the things that they create are magic, or when all of those women work together. But is it hard to become friends with other female comics?
Not even slightly. I feel like there's competition in any environment, in any work environment, or any any environment. But the only people creating competition are the people who are booking one woman per show.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from women or the other folks. It's just, or the other, people of color, other, typically marginalized, folks who have typically been marginalized in comedy. It's if nothing else, everyone's just banding together, so, or either, I can't speak to every single person who ever did comedy, but that's never been, in all my years, that's never been the vibe.
It seems to me like people are taking their careers into their own hands, kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like Amy and I as well, we were working for companies, major companies that were owned radio stations, and we had to just do what the bosses and the higher ups said, and they were usually men. And now we're like, no, we're not doing it anymore. We can do our own thing. And I feel like that's what a lot of comics, female comics, non-binary comics can do nowadays too.
It's comics, and it's also in your case, let's make a podcast. In other people's cases, let's put on a show, let's create a web series, create digital sketches. That's the other way in which technology, if nothing else, has helped again, widen the funnel and provide more opportunities for people to not just make stuff, but distribute it and have it seen and have it count toward or build toward additional success.
What separates people who make it from those who stay stuck?
Often the barriers that are not their fault. I mean, it's still true that even just for, if a woman stand up, that like if you feel comfortable at fewer clubs than X dude, you have like just numerically numerically diminished or decelerated opportunity. And setting aside just whatever, however far good old fashioned gumption is going to get you, it's other than that, it's a combo of, luck and obviously, luck, hard work, and luck and hard work, and the barriers. I would like to assert that the worst barriers are not someone's individual motivation or someone's individual inspiration or energy. The barriers are external and systemic, and we still have to knock them down with our big steel-toed Doc Martens.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there sort of a mistake that you see women in the industry make?
The mistakes I see are dudes. I'm sorry, but dudes are making the mistakes. Dudes are not understanding. Not all dudes, obviously, but it's really on dudes to fix this. Dudes are not seeing that it's not just to be like nice to women. It's first of all, as with any industry, a wider array of voices make the thing better. We know this. It's true in engineering. It's true in science. It's true in academia, whatever it is, right? Any dude who sees a line, to keep using, it's not only about stand-up, it's not only about stand-up lineups, but just because that's an easy thing to imagine. Any dude who, gets booked and then looks on the website and sees that there's only one woman or maybe no women on the lineup, bro, it's on you to call the booker and just be like, guys, I'm not doing this show. Like, I'm sorry, but like guess what? There'll be more shows for you, dude. Like, like that. And I understand that, again, I of course, comedy's hard for everybody. And I don't want to be flip about a guy. Of course, every dude, needs to make money and needs to do his thing 100%. But the opportunities are not sparse.
Right.
So
growing a successful business has never been easy. But whether you're navigating a complex industry or trying to reinvent one, our breadth of banking experts are here to collaborate on market-proven solutions. At KeyBank, we're built to grow with your changing needs because we're not just here for the business you are now, we're here for the business you'll become. Reimagine business as usual. KeyBank opens doors. Learn more at key.com/B2B.
Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, bringing you an expanding library of education with even more ways to sharpen your trading skills. Access new online courses, insightful webcasts, articles, engaging videos, and more, all curated just for traders. Plus, guided learning paths with content designed to fit your unique interests. No sifting to find exactly what you need, so you can spend your time learning to trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.
Every dude who's not doing that all the damn time is hurting himself, and because of the sort of like hurting his own chances to stand out, and hurting the business, because he's working at a club that's not doing good business. They're also telegraphing this club will never, whatever this club is, will never be the one to claim that it incubated anyone but dudes. This club is essentially telling half its potential customers that they care about them less. Not that only women go to see women. Like, I don't mean to be that reductive, but like, if I'm scrolling around looking for which show to go to, I'm going to go to the show that has more different people on it. It's going to be a better show.
Yeah.
And so, like, these men are just continuing to work with people and at places that are bad at their jobs and not supporting even that dude as well as they could be. So the ones making mistakes are the dudes that do not have the balls to stand up and say that.
Do enough men stand up these days and age? No. Is there anybody who has done that, or?
Yeah, there's
Is
some
this-
who are great, but
Yeah.
but sure. But it's not the norm.
Not at all.
So
I'm actually interested in just like as a stand-up comedian in general. I always look at that as being such a difficult job. Like I can't even imagine getting up there and telling jokes and having so I'm sure sometimes you have a crowd that loves you and other times you have a crowd that absolutely hates you. I just can't. I feel like that would be one of the scariest jobs in entertainment to do.
But yeah.
There's so
So
many. I mean, it's so funny because you meet stand-ups who are like, I mean, I could do this every day, but I can't do improv.
Yeah.
Like I would never survive a writer's room. And everyone always, improv people are like, how do you do that? How do you like the same thing that improv people feel that stand-up is terrifying? Not all. I mean, some people do all of them, not everyone, but honestly, as with it never feels great to bomb. No one loves it, but as with every job, it's reps. And the more you do it, and this is true for, it's also true for improv. It's also true for being in a writer's room. It's also true for being a producer. It's also true for, it's just practice and reps. And it doesn't mean you love making mistakes or failing, but the failure is not just normal. Like it's actually, it sucks, but it's helpful. Actually, it's not always helpful. Sometimes it just sucks, right? Sometimes like the same stuff in place A will kill, and then the same exact stuff place B you bomb. That's not necessarily helpful. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's just reps. You kind of you dwell on it less because you do it more. It's just like and if you're not if you're not making or if you're not like bombing, whether it's your fault or not fault, but whether you could have done something differently or not, you're not doing the thing. I mean, I taught my kids I was a skater and I taught my kids, I guess I still am. I bought my kids the littlest skates. They were like Christmas ornaments, and I just like waited for them to grow into them, and I taught them to skate. And naturally they were a little afraid of falling, although kids are much less, they don't care as much. But they would say, but I'm going to fall. And I would always say, if you're not falling, you're not skating. So it's no fun, but it's also like dating, like if you like the apps on, in general are great, if nothing else, because, and I understand all the issues and I understand all the complaint. I understand, but like, if nothing else, it's just like, if you go on a bunch of dates, whichever one is sucky bums you out less, because you have like, it's the percentage of dates that suck is smaller if you go on a bunch of dates. So the same thing, like the percentage of nights that don't go great in comedy, if you're out there getting in your reps, the percentage is smaller, and like you're like, okay, yeah, that's not good, I'll sleep it off.
It's something about gold comedy that would surprise people.
Oh, I love this question. I don't know if this is a surprise, but I think it just goes back to the sort of outside perceptions of women doing comedy, and so many people, they hear I'll say like we help women and others build comedy careers and make funny stuff, and people say things like, well, you must really help women build confidence, and I'm like, okay, like, we do. Okay. Like, I'm not going to argue with that point, but like, why did you go to that? And I just talked about careers and making stuff, and there's nothing wrong with confidence, nor is there anything wrong with building confidence, of course, but it feels very patronizing, and also, because don't get me started on my whole hot take on confidence, which is that it's a complete red herring, and everyone tells women to build confidence where they should just tell men to stop talking, honestly,
Love you.
But I think so. But I think it's also true that, I mean, one of the things I'm proud of about us is that we really do indirectly or directly help people make things and do the thing, whether it's like getting on stage, and getting getting as many reps as you can, doing stand up, developing your persona, all those things. Whether it's making a web series, whether it's creating a solo show, whether it's even just like when members want to do something, we say yes. Hey, can I run another open mic? Yes. This is all, by the way, online. So wherever you're listening from, don't count yourself out. You could be anywhere. It's very brass tacks. It's very do the thing, because there's no comedy in a vacuum. There's no comedy career that happens like in your head. You gotta make stuff, and we are here to help.
I heard or read that you did some work on SNL at one point.
No, I no. Let's see, but the head writer was a friend of mine that from stand-up 100 years ago. And also, I wonder if through some sort of, newfangled game of telephone, you might be thinking of Rachel Dratch, who is not me. But
you do sound like her.
Everyone says that.
You do.
It's probably because we're both from the same hometown. We can do the Boston accent very easily. I knew her. She's from my hometown, which is completely a coincidence. I don't even know what I mean by that, but she is from my hometown, and she is an advisor to Gold. And but it's so funny to me that people say we sound alike, because they're not saying we sound alike when we talk about, hey, you want to go to Dunkin'? Hey, Sully, you want to go to Dunkin' Donuts? We can sound alike on purpose, but I never thought we sounded alike just in life. So that's fine.
It's crazy. I grew up I loved funny women, and I love just comedy in general, but the women that Rachel Dratch was one of that I grew up with, Molly Shannon, and just seeing these women, the physical act of it. And then you see Melissa McCartney doing it, and all of these women that I think coming out from Saturday Night Live, they're more memorable than most of the men. Yes, there's some legendary men, but you look at the women that have come out from there and you're just you're brilliant.
Yeah. I think they're, I don't have any insight into or any actual knowledge, but they may have worked, they may land for you that way because they had to work, my math is not correct, but they may have worked twice as hard and been paid half as much to get there, and had to distinguish themselves even more. No shade to Colin, right? To Colin Jost, no shade, no specific shade to him at all. Don't at me. But he just had to go out and be funny. He didn't have to just because of who he is. I'm not talking about his own talent or skill or whatever. Just because of what he looks like. He didn't have to go create a very singular persona to succeed. Because you look at him, you're like, oh, he's a comedian.
I thought that. I just thought he was a good-looking guy.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. But you wouldn't be you don't question his capacity to be a comedian when you look at him. I'm not saying anything about his looks either. I'm just he just looks like a dude, So, arguably, and I'm not saying he didn't work hard. Again, this is not personal. I'm just saying someone in those circumstances, I'm speculating that women would have had to work harder to distinguish themselves and have a really singular voice, brand, presence, style. Whereas the bar he had to reach was, is he funny? Speculating. I don't know their lives or their exact career choices or obstacles, but just to use it as an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've worked with some really successful people throughout the years. Can you tell us about those individuals?
I mean, we talked about Rachel. She's such a peach. She's really, she's exactly like what you think she is. Nice and kind of I don't know, just kind of, and very unfiltered. What's the word I'm looking for? Not unfiltered, unmanaged, hello, I'm being a famous person now. Just very accessible, and also it's pretty easy to make her laugh, which is just so nice. And
Debbie Downer has to be one of the greatest characters ever. And the way that you would just watch her face, oh my God.
Yeah, she's really, she's just a goofball. She's just really just a professional, extremely talented, very nice professional goofball. So I love to interact with her. It's just, she's just sweet and just wants everyone to laugh, and is generous. She's done us some very nice favors. She appeared in a web series that two Goldies created. And they made it easy for her by shooting in a park near her house, but she did have to wear a giant rat suit. So she was very generous. Jeannie Garofalo is also very generous. If you do stand up now, it's very common to see her and interact with her because she's around all the time. But when I first, started seeing her around, I was like I could not, but she's also completely unaffected, just regular, does famously, maybe this has changed, but famously doesn't have a computer, or does, but doesn't have a smartphone. So
God,
she's never been able to do the stuff we do at Gold's, because it's online, and we have, meet and greets with celebrities on Zoom, and she hasn't been able to do it. But she also, I was someone was like, can we ask someone to do a cameo in our sketch? And I was like, this is a perfect thing for Janeane Garofalo because it's the only thing she can do. She can show up. And she did a cameo in one of our, not as Janeane Garofalo, just as a character who does a sort of a funny button at the end. And she was like all in. She showed up on time. She was like, it was as if she was like working with like, Ethan Hawke on a big deal set. She was as into it and committed and just like the coolest. And like came up with other lines, and she was like, what if you tried this way? But she wasn't like too much. Like, she was great. Who else do we love? I guess, okay, I'll just give you my list of people who are super real, and not that the other ones that I'm not mentioning aren't, but like Bridget Everett, Murray Hill, Jeff Hiller, everyone from Somebody Somewhere, the nicest people you could possibly meet. I've known Murray forever, but the other two I've met more recently. And I'll just say this: they are examples of how it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. All of them. And I knew Bridget, I knew Murray the most time, Bridget half the time, and Jeff more recently. But all of them have been in the trenches in New York City, comedy, cabaret, improv for 20 years. And this is finally, I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened sooner, but like this show is so perfect for all of them that I wish it had happened sooner for them, but it feels worth the wait. I don't know if they would say the same thing, but they're all the nicest people in the world. Happy to report.
So have you seen comedy actually shift power or change real conversations in the last few years?
It absolutely does. It absolutely. That's why, when we said at the beginning that comedy, it matters, diversity, inclusivity, and equity and equality matter in comedy because it's a job, full stop, right? But also because comedy is a cultural force. So it matters who makes it. And especially because it can and does shift hearts and minds. It does. This is the opposite of what you just asked, Megan, because it's not recent at all. But the example I like to point to, because it was such a big deal at the time, was when Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show.
Yeah.
And it's hard to remember that. Yeah, and it's hard to imagine now, first of all, because it seems like big deal. She came out. Not so at the time. It was a giant, even though, it was weird to me because there were plenty of gay characters on television, but somehow this was like Billy Crystal on Soap was a gay guy. Like, but she was so iconic because she was so sorry, but like Girl Next Door and, mainstream and white, and all those things. There's science that tells us that people's attitudes shift about all sorts of things when that thing is literally next door, or when that thing is that issue or person or whatever is in your family or your church or synagogue or your neighborhood or your whatever it is. This was certainly not the only time this happened, but it was such a big and clear one that, we relate to our sitcom friends as our friends, and so to have that happen in such a mainstream venue, a mainstream place, makes a difference because, yeah, she doesn't live next door, but she kind of does. She's there. She's your friend from television, and it's not a replacement for policy change and legal precedent and, literal, marriage equality and anti-discrimination laws, but it creates the air cover for them. And we know this, another more recent example is, I don't have science that points to like exact attitudes that were changed, but there is science, there is research on comparable situations. And I always think about, the reboot of One Day at a Time where, which, I grew up watching, the original one, and this one was like a quote unquote regular, normal American family, but they were Cuban and they were immigrants. And the parents were, and the grandmother was. And so most of the show was just about like mishaps, like homework, whatever, like I forgot the stuff for the bake sale, just like the same stuff. Right. Which, first of all, challenges and really sets up a new norm that like you don't have to be white to be a quote unquote regular American family. Same thing the Huxtables did on the Cosby Show, right? And the second thing is that once they gain your trust and sort of establish we are quote unquote a normal American family, then yeah, they did bring in some plot lines that directly talked about issues around immigration and racism. But when you have it in that kind of easy, sugar-coated, brightly colored, entertaining format, those ideas get absorbed in a really sort of magical, much easier osmosis than they might if someone was scolding you, or if you were asked to read a white paper, or a lengthy article, and even if it's a good one, in the Times or the Atlantic. Like it gets under your skin.
So I want to go back to Ellen DeGeneres for just 1 second, because I remember that whole thing happening when she came out, and then I think she did one more season of her comedy show after that, or her sitcom, and then it almost seemed like people didn't like the fact that she came out and that it was canceled at that point. And it almost felt like it took a few more years, and then she came with her talk show, and then all of a sudden she seemed more accepted again. It just seemed like there was still resistance during that time.
There's always resistance. And there's always resistance. If there weren't resistance, it wouldn't have been a big deal in the first place, right? So it's sort of like the stock market, all the social change. It's going to go, and it's going to go zig, 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 zig. But it will trend in one direction, even as it's zigging and zagging. And by definition, matters of social change are going to, backlash. They're always going to be like, whoa, back and forth with, being sort of buffeted by different waves on different sides, always by definition, because if we're challenging cultural currents, then those currents are going to get stronger when we challenge them, right? So it's not an indication of failure. It's actually an indication of impact. Like, this is not the same thing, but the number of times that they have declared feminism dead is hilarious to me, right? So it's the same thing. It's like the stronger we get, the more you're like, oh no, but it never means anything. If feminism were dead, they wouldn't be writing that article.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just like, yeah, this is all inevitable. It's just part of the process.
I look at like Robbie Hoffman right now. I think she's brilliant. Mae Martin. And I look at these comedians who are really, really big right now. For the non-binary comics, what does that mean to see that kind of representation? Are you seeing people scared to tell jokes about themselves? Are they coming out a little bit more?
I think my small view is that people are just more and more open about everything. That like we are past. I can't speak for every comic and every club and everything, but like we are past the kind of detached observational comedy that used to be the norm for so long, which, even no matter how good the jokes were, and often they were great jokes, but like the kind of you ever notice kind of comedy that doesn't have a point of view, but is just a joke. And many people can do that, and they make it into, like, there are many people who take that kind of, take observational humor and make it their own brand, because their observations are all of a piece, because they're coming from a particular lens, or they have a particular style. There's so many people who could do Dimitri Martin. There's so many people who can do that, right? But like, I don't think that you're going to super really succeed as a comedian if you're just kind of doing detached jokes without an aggressive style around it or an aggressive point of view. All to say that there's so much more room now, and it's very normalized to talk about personal stuff, not in a like confessional, like this could have been a journal, kind of way, but like you're really, write fantastic, well thought out stuff about all sorts of struggles, even trauma, but your identity, whatever it is. I think that's pretty normal now. It's not audacious or outrageous, and I think that's great. It's just better comedy, because it's so
love that kind of comedy. I find that the funniest.
Right. No other person can tell those jokes. Like, you could even be talking about the same topic, which of course everyone is. We're all talking about our like wacky family and annoying jobs. Everyone is, right? But the specificity is so welcome. And I can't speak to, Mae's or Robbie's personal experience, I can't say that I saw them come up, when I saw them, 10 years ago, and I can talk about their path. But I hope that for them, it's kind of like not a big deal to be bi, like it's to like being bi is like kind of like uninteresting. I wish that, it's only interesting as far as they make it interesting, not like, oh, they're a bisexual comedian, what could it mean? Like, I'm hoping it's not interesting in that way.
Yeah. Is it still so, like, of course, gold comedy, everybody's invited, but for other non-binary, because we talk a lot about women, is it easier for women than it is non-binary comics in these comedy stores or
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think that's why we say others, because I mean, speaking only for Gold, what we say is, and we also have straight cis dudes, a few, and we're all escaping and kind of craving the same thing, which is escaping the bro vibe and craving no bro vibe. Can we escape it forever? No, we can't always just be on Gold Zooms, in our happy place. We have to be out there. But but that's the thing. And so it's to me, it's not we don't even really talk that much about being like rah women, like we internally. It's just like kind of certainly normalized to do jokes that are relevant to the wide variety of lives that women lead. But we also tell our instructors to not refer to classes as, okay, ladies, we don't do that because people have all sorts of pronouns. I can't. I also, when people join, everyone can join. If you don't bring a bro vibe, please join, because I can't. It's not legal for me to discriminate, and also I don't know your life. Like, I don't know anything about you from your pronouns. I don't know anything about you from your face. So all it is attitude. And, if you're collaborative and supportive and want to work hard, doors open.
That in media, or like, we're funny because we had trauma as children, but, and there were some mental health issues. And that's what makes us funny, is because we can find the humor in it. So it's nice.
I mean, it's an art, but it's harder to write jokes about things that are inherently not funny, if not aggressively bad and negative and harmful. But it just takes practice and work and insight and thoughtfulness. And, Judy Gold's one of my other favorite people, not only as a comedian, but to like work with personally. We agree on this. She says you can write a joke about anything, but like the tougher the topic, the funnier the joke has to be.
Yeah. This is about a guy, but Pete Davidson he lost his father in 9/11, and he does a lot of jokes about planes and killing people and stuff like that. And that is not something a lot of people could get away with. But the way he's said them, I have thought that is, that's pushing it. But I thought it was really well done how he did it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, people can do it. It's, people can do it. And in a way, like, especially him, he has more, his permission slip is bigger, than others. But that's also like, it's probably what is for him. It's, the best advice is, write what moves you emotionally, write what you think is funny, write what you have authority over, write what you have access to, write what all those things. And he did.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
If anybody wants more info on Gold Comedy, Lynn, where should they go?
They should go. Thank you for asking. They should go to goldcomedy.com. And you can also find us on Instagram. You can see a lot of our content on Instagram too. We have, I mentioned the web series. We have teams making digital sketches that are very funny. You can find those on Instagram and our reels. And I'll send you information. I can also, if anyone just has questions, I'll send you a link to make an appointment to talk to me.
Awesome. One last thing. What was the last thing that really made you laugh?
Literally last night, I was telling my husband about Widow's Bay, this new show, and how funny I think it is. And especially because I'm from New England, as you know, Rachel Dratch connection. And it's so, so it hits all those notes. But I was telling my husband, I was sort of saying it like in front of my son to be like, I see you, bro. Because I was telling you about this funny line where the dad comes outside and the kid is clearly smoking weed, and the kid turns around and says, "Oh, Dad, do you know what this is? I just found it and I didn't know what to do with it." And it made me laugh so hard. And I was like, just to assert to my child, who did not do anything similar, but thinks we don't know a lot of things that we actually do know. But that show is really funny. I'm a big fan. Any show that's like, obviously I love comedy, but the shows that make me laugh the most are not necessarily like straight up sitcoms. but like funny shows with a plot, or even better, like a curse or a crime, you know, and this one has those.
I love that. I'm going to check that out.
It's real good.
Thank you so much for your time today, Lynn. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
You.